Hello, good afternoon. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Thursday 3:30 p.m. demo at the um, chocolate tour of Belgium online crop. And it's a sweet weekend that we have ahead of us. Just getting my video set up on the side here so I can make sure we're all in view and so that I can see your comments. Okay, just putting this up here, and hopefully it's not interfering with the picture, and it's not. Excellente. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. So we are going to be looking at the featured collection for the month of February from the January-February catalog, and that is the collection that is called Sweet Memories. And it's a very pretty vintagey style, a little bit romantic, but also kind of has a modern twist, but it's got beautiful soft colors, mulberry, periwinkle, mist, sage, and mink in there. And so we're going to be looking at the paper and stickers, and we're also going to be using some of the Sweet Memories die cuts. As well, we're going to be using an older stamp set that you may have in your collection, and we're just going to be having some fun with it today. So let's get started. Instead of using a piece of cardstock for my base page, I'm actually using one of the pattern papers from this collection. And this pattern paper, I chose it because of how nice it looks with the style of photos that I have. And these photos that I'm using are photos from 1956. And so, photo printing back then was a bit of a different thing. And so photos were often in different styles and whatnot. And I don't want to modify the original photos. I want to keep them true to the era. And so I thought that they went really well with this sort of ledger paper background. It's got stuff about photography on here. It's got some numbers. It's got some fun things happening down here again, things about photography. And I thought that was just really fun for what I want to do. Now, I'm not going to stick down my page just yet because I want to do a little bit of distressing on my page. And so I'm going to be using an older stamp set that you might have in your stash called Background Elements. And this stamp set lets you do some distressing, some splattering, that kind of thing without the mess. So distress without the mess. So I'm going to be using this particular stamp that makes just a blotch of splattery goodness. I had thought about splattering just myself, and I thought, you know what, let's pull out the stamp set. We like that stamp set. Let's use it. Let's create something with it. So I've got my obviously well-used stamp on my block, and I'm going to use mist ink for this, and this is one of those coordinating cards, not coordinating cardstocks, coordinating colors for this collection. So let me see. Am I going off the edge? Possibly. So just in case, let's grab the all-purpose mat and put that down so that we can have the freedom to choose whether we want to stamp off the edge or not. And you can tell that my all-purpose mat is well used, well loved, and so let's get some stamping happening on here. So we've, like I said, we've got our mist ink. I'm going to just set it off to the side here. I think you can still sort of see that. I've got this stamp set up. Going to ink it up, and then we're just going to add a little bit of distress. So there we go. And of course, when you're using the same stamp over and over again, it helps to rotate the stamp so that all the images don't all look the same. You don't necessarily need samey. We're going to go off the edge there. That was a good choice to decide to use our all-purpose mat. And then let's also come down here and add a little bit of that splattering down there. Kind of covers up this blank tag that's here because I'm not really going to do anything with that. So that's nice. We'll add a little bit more over here as well. And maybe some, I can even do second generation stamping. And some of this will get actually hidden. You won't actually see it. So I want to do a little bit of second generation up at the top. So I'm going to stamp off and then stamp again. And I'll do the same thing again. Stamp off and stamp again up there just to get that different look. And again, I'm going to cover up the center, so it doesn't matter what I do in the center. And stamp again. Okay, I think that's looking good. Maybe a little bit just over here, just so it doesn't feel lonely. Just a tiny little bit of splatter there. Looks good. I love that background elements stamp set. And then, of course, we can give it a little swishy swipe with our stamp chamois. And we're good to go. All right. Hey, Deborah. Nice to see you're watching. I don't know if I have my comments moved so I can see. Oh, look at a whole bunch of people commented. Hey, Joanne. How are you? Yes, Joanne. Gotta love our messless distress. We love it. Good morning. Or I'm saying good morning. Good afternoon. Hi, Mom. So the other thing I want to do to create a little bit of distress is I'm going to tear my base page. Woo! How many of you have torn your base pages before? Is that something that you have done? Let's get this out of the way. I always store my all-purpose mat rolled up so it doesn't get creases in it. Put that back on my shelf. And again, I'm not sticking this down yet because I want to be able to move it around. But what we're going to do, we're going to kind of tear a little bit away at the top here. So I'm going to kind of create a little bit of a tear down, and then we're going to kind of tear away like that, and then we're going to come the other direction, and we're going to tear away like that. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of roll that torn edge just a little bit. Just kind of make it look even more distressed. The back side of this paper has the mink cameras all over it. So if a little bit of that darkness shows here, it's not going to bother me whatsoever. We're going to keep rolling along the edge here like that, and maybe even a little bit more right there. Now you're gonna say, well, that's odd, and now we've got a hole in our a hole in our page. What's up with that? Don't worry, we're gonna do the same thing down at the bottom. So we're gonna make a little bit of a tear in, and then we're going to turn it so we can tear. We're gonna tear a little bit this way, and we're going to tear a little bit of it this way. Maybe not quite so big of a tear out as at the top. Just a little bit. And then, of course, we can roll those torn edges a little bit. Creates some texture. Creates a little bit of something different on the edge of our layout. So, what do we do with it now that we've torn it and we've got a hole in it? We can't rightly put it in our page protector because we're going to see a layout from behind. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and cut some pieces of the pattern paper that I can attach in behind. So we're going to turn this over, and we're going to add some of this paper in behind. We're just going to add a little bit of adhesive across the one edge. We're not going to put any in the center because obviously that's going to be it's going to be seen if we do, and then our pages will stick together and it'll be a whole big deal. So let's put this on. I'm going to actually turn it sideways so I can line it up. So we're going to line it up so that it's following the edge of where the page should be, just like that. Stick it down, and then from the front you can see we have that lovely periwinkle pattern showing through where that torn edge is. And let's do the same thing down at the bottom. We're going to put adhesive along one side, and then a little bit at the top corners. Just stick it down. Oops, I've got adhesive on my finger. Adhesive on my finger instead of on the paper. That wasn't quite what I was going for. So there we go. And the last one. I'm going to get that adhesive off my hand. Okay, so again, I'm going to turn this sideways so I can line up with the edge. And stick that down like so. And now we have that beautiful periwinkle popping up from the bottom. How fun is that? A nice little sort of distressy touch going on there. And now we can go ahead and stick down our layout. Oh, there I am doing it again. Getting the adhesive on my hand instead of where I want it. Put my finger in it. Just funsies. Okay, let's try this. Once it gets started doing that, it just keeps going. There we go. So a little bit of adhesive, and that way our page won't be shifting around while we're trying to work on our layout. There we go, sticking it down. Now, of course, this weird inking that happened in the center, I'm just going to check my screen, make sure we're all still in a good place. We're all still in good place. Awesome. This part in the center, we're going to cover it up. So I've got a piece of this lovely sage paper with a beautiful tiny little dot design on there, kind of in a grid pattern. And it's the back side of this blue that we just, or the periwinkle that we just put at the top and the bottom. So this is a 4-inch piece, 12 inches all the way across. And we're going to go stick this down right in the center of our page. And so it's 4 inches. So that means if the bottom edge lines up with the 4 on our Versamat, then we should be in the center of our layout. There we go, right between 4 and 8. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit more tearing. We started tearing, we need to keep tearing. So I've got this lovely mulberry pattern. It's a beautiful floral. It matches some of the things that are happening in the background. The back side is a really fun paper as well, but we're not using that today. But I need to do some tearing. So I'm going to tear this down the length. I cut it to 2 inches. But I'm not going to tear it right in half. I'm going to be a little bit off center. So one side is going to get a little more, and one side is going to get a little less. And we're just going to go ahead and tear that all the way across. It doesn't have to be too even. It seems to be going pretty even here, but we can vary it around a little bit if we want to. And we're just going to tear that all the way across. And then we're going to adhere this part above our sage pattern paper. Quite often when we're doing our card making stash, we get things like torn paper. And sometimes I think people wonder, what are we going to do with torn paper? Well, there's a lot of stuff you can do with torn paper. And then we're going to adhere this piece below the sage. So just going to add some adhesive across here. And I find it just adds a nice little bit of texture. It's not adding any extra bulk in this regard because we're not popping anything up, but we're just tearing it, and that gives it that nice little bit of texture going across. And then too, I want to bring in my photos and show you what it is that we're going to be scrapbooking today. So I've got 3 photos, and these are photos, as I said, from 1956, specifically May. So here on the photo, it actually prints out May 56. And these photos all have, so some of you may have like decal scissors or decal trimmers. And so it's kind of decal cut all the way around. They've left a nice white margin around. But then there's also this kind of holes in the top here where I think they probably would have had them on some sort of ring or something when you get your photos. I don't know, that's what it looks to me, almost like the spiral binding or the comb binding. And so I wanted to maintain that look, and I thought this kind of look with the decal edge and the holes really went sort of with this ledger paper. It kind of had that vibe, the vibe. So this picture is actually a photo of my mom in 1956. And so she was just a young girl, but she's all dressed up with her dress shoes and a pretty dress on. And then this photo is my mom with her sister Anne and her brother Eric. And of course, they're all dressed up. So obviously something was happening. We were discussing it this afternoon. And there's a close-up of Eric too. And it was May, so it could have been that they were all dressed up for Mother's Day, you know, going to church or something, or my mom's birthday is in May, so you never know, they might have been dressed up for that. And so I thought this is a fun trio of photos, and the way I've got them on my paper, on my page, is kind of how they're going to go. I like the one of all three of the kids in the center, and then these two on either side. And this one especially because his feet are kind of pointing that way. This photo, he's just looking off. Something was happening over here, and he didn't keep looking at the camera. So I don't want this one on the edge. But this one, he's looking a little bit more to the inside. So it made sense to have Eric over there. So I actually want to attach these with a little bit of foam tape to pop them up. So I'm going to start with the first one and go ahead and add that on there. And a little bit down there. And a little bit in the center. I'm not going to go crazy with the foam tape. And we'll do that for all three. And this is the 3D foam tape, but it is, when you get the 3D foam tape, you get two different sizes of rolls. So one is wider and one is thinner. So this is the thinner one. And of course, it's safe for using in your scrapbooks. So I'm, you know, I always get a little bit scared when I do things with old photos because there's no replacing them, right? But it's nice to get them in your album so they don't get lost and they don't get forgotten. So, and I like how the old photos had that date on there. There's a bunch in my albums that I got from my grandparents that have dates on them, and I like that because, you know, you can kind of guess from the age when they might be, but it's so nice to see exactly when they were, even if it's not the day per se. And a lot of my grandmother's photos, she actually wrote on the back of them, or put little pieces of paper in the album to describe, you know, who was in the photo at least. And I find that very handy as well. So it kind of goes to show you that having your photos in an album or a scrapbook with some information is really helpful. People will appreciate it down the line, right? We got to preserve those memories. Hey, Michelle, officially off until Monday. Woohoo! It's about time, right? Time for some crafty goodness. So we're going to line this one up about the same distance in from the edge. And you'll notice that I'm putting the outside photos on first. And then I'm going to do the center one. And that way it will help me with my spacing. And so this last one, I'll just be able to center it in between the other two photos. Now, if my husband saw me doing this, he would probably want me to put gloves on. Whenever he touches old photos, he has a fancy set of gloves that he uses, and but I don't have those with me, so I'm just trying to be cautious, but soon they will be in the page protectors and away from harm. So we've got those on there. Doesn't that look cool? I like how you've got that little bit of green, even though these are black and white photos, that little bit of green kind of reads as grass, you know, from what's happening in the photo. Obviously, the house next door to my grandparents, it was a white house. Still, is it a white house? No, it's more of a creamy house now, but was a white house, and so that reads as white. And then my grandparents' house was white and green, so that kind of is sort of an ode to the white and green house, having that sage in the background, although their green was more punchier than a sage. All right, so now we need to add some little embellishments on here. And one thing I was thinking I'd like to do is to bring in one of the zip strips from this collection. And I'm going to add it here, but I'm not going to add it all the way across. I'm just going to do a portion, and I think to about there. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tear the end. So I've just got a little torn edge, and then I'm going to have it come across about that far. So then we can snip this off. I'm just going to use my scissors, just like that. And then we can attach this underneath the photos and have a little bit more punch of that mulberry coming, the same color that's in the, and this is a fun geometric, but it's the same color that's in that floral. So we're going to stick that across, and it's going to peek through the little holes as well. And just stick that down there like that. And then from the collection, we have these fun die cuts, and these are paperboard. There's a whole bunch of different ones. There's swirls. There's a title, and we're actually going to use one of the titles for the title for this layout. Just reaching, put that over there. And there's arrows, there's keys, there's photo op, there's florals, there's some of the swirls, there's a camera with a floral, camera with a smile. So I've pulled a few things off of this, and one of the things I've pulled off is this big swirly, and I would like to stick that right up here, kind of going across those two photos, just like that. So because this is kind of fine, I'm going to do the trick where I take my glue and put a bit of glue on my hand, and then we're going to tap our paperboard piece into the glue, and it will pick up just glue where it needs glue. And if I get too much, I can tap off on my hand and the excess will come off. I know some of you don't like getting glue all over yourself, but that's okay. And then we're going to stick this down here. I like how it kind of intertwines with that splattering, the faux splattering that we did. So there we've got that. And then I've also pulled out one of the florals. So I'm going to do the same thing while the glue is still wet on my hand. Tap, tap, tap. And by doing that tapping process, we kind of cut down on the amount of smooshing that happens with little things like this. If I took my glue and I drew on the back of it, as you would normally do, I would end up with too much glue, and there would be puddling glue everywhere. But when you tap, 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 then it eliminates that. You don't have to do it on your hand. You could have, you could put a little bit on one of your stamp blocks, tap, 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 wipe it off. I find that my hand is just handy. Pardon the pun. So then I've got this title that says Lovely Day, but I'm actually going to pop out the word lovely, which, you know, that means I have those letters I can use on something else. So I'm just going to pop those out. Now I'm going to have to keep the center for my O, and I don't want to lose it. So I'm going to just pop that out and set it right there. So remind me when I'm looking for it in a minute that that's where the center to my O is. And just pop, it's only held on in two places. There's the O, and I'll tuck those back into the zipper bag. There's the V, and then the E. These are so fine. I love that they can do these sort of laser cut die cuttings and have all of these very fine details. There's the E. Some of these pop out of the sheet so well that they barely hang on. So I've never really had any of them tear in all the times I've used these. Okay, so there we go. We've got our lovely day. We're going to tap, tap, tap. Hopefully I've got enough glue there. Barely. Maybe. Tap, tap, tap. Get that stuck down. And we're going to put it right at the bottom. Maybe, yeah, we're going to put it pretty much a little bit to the right of center. Lovely day. We don't know what day exactly, but it looks like it was a lovely day. Everybody was dressed up all fancy. Now I'm just going to rub that glue off my hand into my trash so that we don't have to look at the glue residue on my hand for the whole rest of the video, because some people get the heebie-jeebies from that. All right. Oh, wait. We forgot about the center of the O. I knew that would happen. We need to put our O in. So now that I got rid of my glue, I'll just go ahead and add a teeny tiny drop of glue. We'll see if it's teeny tiny when we stick it in there. And pop that in the center. Lovely day. It's a really nice color, very similar to the mink that they have on this paper. Now, from the sticker sheet, look at all of these beautiful stickers. Lots of titles on here too. A Day to Remember, Picture Perfect Day, Sweet Memories, Living the Dream. There's a swan, there's a camera, there was a crown here. I already used that. There's flowers, there's viney things, butterflies, keys, and then extra little words. Snapshots, traditions, bless this home, lovely. The swan says beautiful, together, true story. Every day is a gift, looking good, remember this. No place like home. Oh, you could totally make a Wizard of Oz layout. No place like home. And so we're going to use some of these to liven up our layout. And I want to grab this lovely floral here first. And we're just going to add that there. I think we're going to add some foam tape to that, just to pop it up a little bit. I'll grab a couple snips of foam tape there. And then I also, while we're doing this, because I'm going to do a couple things here, we're also going to grab this floral, this nice big one, and let me see, we're going to add this one up here, kind of like that. So, going to pop that one up with foam tape as well. Let me just do that, and that, and that. Now, a little bit of our swirly bit there disappeared when I did that. And so, from this die cut, if I go into my little bag of little bits, oops, stuck it to the sticker. See how I've got a tiny little swirl here? And when I was working on a card, I didn't need all of my swirls. And so I cut it off and saved it, just for such an occasion where I might need a little extra swirl. So I'm going to set that there. And when I put my flower down, I can tuck that little swirl in, just so I got a little extra something going on there. Okay? And so now, in order to use this, we need to grab our anti-static pouch that we use when we do heat embossing. And we're just going to go tap, tap, tap all over the back of these stickers, thereby turning our stickers into more of a die cut. And it'll put that little starchy powder all over it and take away the sticky. And we're just tap, tap, tapping on the second one. We left the backing on our foam tape, so our foam tape will still be sticky when we remove the backing. But our sticker, you'll hear it as I'm doing this. It'll, see how it doesn't sound as sticky? And that's exactly what you want. Just to get that little bit of powder on there. And then, of course, your fingers are going to be all powdery. So I'm just going to rub them off on my pants, just like that. And we can bring in our florals, remove the backings, like so. And then we can put our florals down. And I'm going to kind of tuck it in behind that photo, a little off the center. And then, like I said, we have our little, I'm going to do this again. You knew it was going to happen, right? We're going to take our little swirl, tap, 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 and then we can tuck it right under the edge of that floral. And now it looks like this large swirl just continues all the way through, and nobody will be the wiser unless they watch the video. All right, let's add in our other floral here down at the bottom. And what I was aiming for is we've got one large floral like this one in the background. Then we've added in our die, and then we're going to add this one on top like this. And now we've created a little cluster with 3 little flowers there. And we really like 3s, don't we? We sure do. Now, these 2 are fairly close in size, so having one that would be a little bit smaller of this would have been nice, but the other ones that were a little bit smaller were too small. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we now have 3 of these sort of mink colored die cuts, and that is nice too, because we've kind of brought it around full circle on the page, right? Now I was wondering about adding a little bit of this, but I think with all my splattering and stuff, actually, you know what? It might still look good on there. And it kind of fills in that blank space. So let me just give a little snip. There we go. And I'm going to tear the end just like we tore the other one, like that. We're going to stick it down, and I'm going to ignore the fact that it doesn't have splattering on it. That's totally okay. The other one didn't either. And stick that on a little bit north of center, like that. So pretty. Now, I don't think I had anything much else that I wanted to add from the sticker sheet. Just taking a look here. Nope, I think that's good. So we're going to set that aside. But I did have some journaling. Sorry, I'm turned away from the camera, grabbing something off my other table here. I did have some journaling already done. Look at me. I usually do not get the journaling done. And I've just got everybody's name, the date, and then all dressed up. So these are the journaling sticker strips that we carry. And so I'm just going to go ahead and snip that off. They come in different sizes. One is 1/4 of an inch, one is 3/8 inch. And so I'm just going to snip these apart and add them on here. So we've got Ruth, Ann, and Eric, May. We've got all dressed up like that. And then we've got the date. So I thought I would just add that on there like that. And then we also cannot avoid putting a little bling on there. Michelle says she's loving the layout. Yes, this collection, because of the sort of vintage vibe that it has, the sort of soft, romantic, a little bit distressed, really does look good with older photos, with black and white photos, but I think it also works with modern photos. I was actually considering trying some of my wedding photos with this. So I've got the blue dots here, and the dots on here are sapphire, bluebird, but periwinkle is the third one. So I'm just going to grab some of those periwinkle ones. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do circles or hearts, and I think I'm going to do circles. So let's grab this one here, and that will match with that pattern paper that's in behind. So let's see, what do we want? Let's add a periwinkle there. We'll add a little one beside it, and then a medium one, maybe up here. Then we can also add a little bit over here amongst the this little floral cluster. Like so. Sorry, as I stop talking, it's because my brain is thinking. We're going to tuck some in there like that. We're kind of making a couple triangles happening there. And then let's grab, I think there's one more circle. We can tuck one up here somewhere. Maybe there. And then, oh look, more circles. You got to kind of keep looking sometimes. And then let's add, tuck one kind of almost right under the edge of that, and one up there near our little distressed torn edge. There we go. We've added in some bling. Everything needs some bling every so often. Let me flip this over and get my rub and remove eraser, and then we can remove that adhesive off the back that we stuck down to keep our layout from moving around. There we go. No more sticky. And there we have it. So that is our completed layout using the Sweet Memories collection. We started out with pattern paper instead of cardstock for our base page, and then of course doing some of that distress without the mess, and using the background elements stamp that I know some of you really love. We did some tearing to add a little more distress at top and bottom, adding pattern paper in behind to poke through. And then, of course, the lovely torn mulberry pattern paper, some sage just to ground all those photos straight across, leaving the photos in their original shape and edging and everything, so it looks really nice with this ledger paper. Then we built up this little cluster that was already created on the pattern paper with some die cuts and some stickers, and added some here. We've got our title, we've got some journaling, and we've got some bling, a little bit of zip strip, and that is our completed layout. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that come together. I hope you feel inspired to use a little bit of distress, to do a little bit of tearing, and to have some fun with stickers and die cuts, and let the photos kind of do the speaking for you. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. We'll be back on for Chat and Craft at 7 o'clock, and we'll see you then. All right, toodaloo. Bye.